Welcome to the Patryk Real Estate Show, where we explore the fascinating world of real estate investing with your host, Patryk Switek. Patryk is a dynamic young entrepreneur and an accomplished real estate investor who's passionate about helping others achieve financial freedom. Each week, we sit down with some of the most inspiring individuals in the real estate industry and delve into their personal journeys, lessons learned, and secrets to their success. Let's dive into this week's episode.
Syed, welcome to the Patryk Real Estate Show, man. Really excited to bring you on because you're somebody that I've been seeing on social media a lot more. You've been kind of head down working on your portfolio for a long time. From my understanding, you're at around 300 plus units, right?
Yeah, that's correct. 310 units now.
And so it's all in Chicago, Arbitrage. And that's something that I admire. You've scaled really quickly and you've been head down working for a long time. You really haven't been in the scene, but now you finally came out and have been giving a lot of incredible knowledge and to the whole industry. And I've just been wanting to pick your brain. For the audience, Syed and I met up in a Share Wealth conference. I got to see him in person. And honestly, I was very surprised how humble and how cool he was. And hopefully you guys can see the same thing through this podcast. Incredible story. I'm really excited just to dive in, man. So what's your story? Let's hear it, man.
Yeah. Before I begin, I just want to say right off the bat, like I had good energy and good vibes with you. You were very welcoming. Yeah. You never know what you get from somebody on social media, right? They say never meet your hero. And I have been following you too. I've been seeing your stuff and sometimes I vibed with the person across from me and sometimes it feels they're looking through me. I got a good impression and throughout the whole conference, like you were very welcoming. Like I didn't know all these people, right? This is my first time in this world of social media. You were like, Syed, come here, let's have lunch. Syed, let's go here. It was like good vibes. I really appreciate the experience you gave me at the Wealth Conference. So thanks to you.
Appreciate you, man.
So just to kick it off, like Patryk, you said, I have 310 units in Chicago. I've been in the business for about 7 years now. And recently, this last year, I got into the social media personal branding space. So for a long time, a lot of people did not know me. And purposely, I didn't want to be known. I just wanted to make money doing my one thing that I was really good at, which was scaling our Airbnb arbitrage business. I had a lot of colleagues who also had scaled businesses, but I never paid attention to the social media world until someone brought it up to me and showed me like the value of it. So I'm like, okay, fine, let's see what happens. And since then, it's been a cool experience. It's a good experience that I have been having. Like I'm going places and being recognized. Conversations are starting off with more meaningful because it's like everything is screened through already. Everybody knows me from my content already. So I've been having like a good experience with social media. So that's that about social media, but I want to get into the business, right? So like how I got started and where I'm at today, like some challenges that I've gone through over the time, right? It was like 7 years ago is when I started the business. And first I was working corporate America. I was working in finance, doing like budgeting, forecasting. And I thought that was the way to make financial freedom, go to college, get a job, save money, 401k, and do that. But I started noticing the people that I wanted their position, like the senior managers and VPs, were not living that lifestyle that I wanted. And they're not living I like nice things, right? I like nice cars. I want vacations. I want nice homes. Like they weren't living that. So I was like, wait, am I working 20 years to get to that point and I'm still in the rat race? So I started like figuring out like, how can I get financial freedom, financial wealth? And I started getting into Bigger Pockets. I started reading or listening to Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And that kind of gave me a lot of motivation. Hey, I need to make this happen. Maybe in 10 years, 15 years, I could replace my 9-to-5 income with some like cash flow. I was on the podcast every day to work. It was like a 45-minute drive and actually to Glenview. And I know you told me that you're from Glenview, wow. Right? So it's just like a small world.
Which company did you work for?
Allstate.
Oh, dude, that's literally walking distance from my house. That's crazy.
No way. Yeah.
That's crazy. Okay.
So, yeah. And then it got me motivated to get into the house hacking method where you buy a property, you rent out all the other units and live in one. So I used that FHA low money down financing loan where you have to live in one of the units. I lived in the basement for a year. And then after the year was done, I was like, okay, it's time to rent it. It was a basement unit, so it's kind of like crappy. It was like less than $1,000 rent. I was going to get someone weird for sure. But at the same time, I listened to somebody on Bigger Pockets about he's killing it on Airbnb. So I was like, okay, it's furnished. It's ready to go. Let me just put it on Airbnb. And then right off the bat, like in the first month, it was February, it made market rent, like what I would have made from a long-term tenant perspective in February. And I'm like, it's cold. Like, there's no travel in Chicago. Let's see what happens in like March, April, May. All of a sudden in March, I'm making 2 times the rent. And April, 2 times the rent. And May, 3 times the rent. And I said, whoa, what is going on? 3 times the rent. I'm making more cash flow from this one unit than the other 4 units in my building. Like, this is crazy. And this is like my worst unit. I was like, wait, I want to make my other units Airbnb. And at the time, it was like the renewal time for some of my tenants, and they didn't want to renew because, one, they weren't happy with the Airbnb in the basement. And I said, okay, you could leave. And when they left, I put their units on Airbnb. And every unit that I put on Airbnb, it was making that 3x rent during that summer when I first put it on. And I'm like, what? This is crazy. I'm like, I'm fast forwarding. I said, okay, so to bring it back a little bit, I was like, okay, 10, 15 years till I could leave my job. But I saw so much opportunity and value in this. I was like, I gave my 1 month notice to my boss. I'm like, listen, I want to be an entrepreneur full time. And at that time, like, everyone said, I'm crazy. What are you thinking? You just started. You don't know what you're doing. It's too much risk. You have a family. You have this. You have, like, I had my family say no, my mom and dad. I had my wife say no. I had friends saying, what are you doing? Everybody was not for it.
But what year was this, by the way? Because that matters a lot.
Yeah, so this was back in 2017 is when I first started the Airbnb. Yeah.
There you go. That's why 2017 Airbnb wasn't really a thing. It was kind of it was coming up. It was coming up for sure.
Yeah.
But dang, okay.
Yeah, so 2017 is when I first started, and then I gave my notice for work 3 months in, and all of a sudden I fast forwarded 15 years of financial wealth to leave my job to 3 months. So now I'm on my own to start my business. And right off the bat is one thing that I did. I went on Google and I searched like Chicago Airbnb management. And there was only one company that came up, which was this one company. They got acquired recently. And I'm like, wait, if there's only one company, like, can I start this business and take some of their market share from them? Can I do this too? And that's what I did. And I invested in SEO. And I ended up being #1 on the first page after 1 week and 2 weeks. I was like, what? This is crazy. I didn't even know what the SEO guy was doing, but it worked. And all of a sudden, leads started coming in. And I started going and closing on these deals. And I'm on top of the world thinking I'm like the smartest guy. But now I'm starting to operate and partner with these owners. And that's when I realized, hey, this sucks. Working with other people really sucks. And they consumed my life. They were never happy. They were needy. They talked to me like I'm their assistant. And I just did not like that model at all. I'm like, this is like terrible.
Management, right?
Yeah, the management model. Yeah.
Yeah.
So where it's you share the revenue 80-20, 75-25, whatever it was. And then like what made me like get turned off big time was like this one person that had 20 units. They were doing very bad on Airbnb in terms of reviews. And I was like, hey, I'll turn it around for you. And after 3 months of pitching, 1 month of onboarding, like a couple weeks in, she pulled the plug away from me. And I'm like, whoa, I just wasted like 4 months on this, so much time and effort. And it was just taken away from me. So I was like, okay, do I continue to do this or not? But I still had nothing else. So I'm like, all right, let's keep doing it. So I went to this one random networking event. And there was a person in our group that said, hey, we're looking for people to do Airbnb in our building. And I've never heard of anybody say anything like that. So I was like, I'm in the business. I want to do it. She gave me the number to the property manager, and I started calling. And I started getting rejected on the calls. Call back in a week, call back in 2 weeks, call back after the spring season. They just kept on pushing it off, right? Finally, I started calling every other day. And then he's like, all right, fine, just come in, talk to me in person, and we can figure it out. I come in person. The boss is not available right now. Come back. I started coming in person. It was bothering him. This was an opportunity of a lifetime because I didn't mention, but this landlord was a big landlord. He had 1,500 units in Chicago at the time. So he had so many units vacant. So I'm like, potentially I could partner up with him. Finally, I walk in the office. One day, I'm going to put you in a room with him. If he says yes, go ahead and you could do it. If he says no, then you're done. The owner comes in the room, super alpha male, and he's listen, I'm not looking to get in the Airbnb business. I'm not looking to buy furniture. I'm not looking to do any of this. I'm sorry, but you got to leave. And then I'm like, okay, last ditch effort. I'm like, you have 100 units vacant right now. Can I lease 2 of them? And I'll pay you rent, and I'll buy the furniture. I'll take on the risk, and no matter what, I'll pay you the rent. And then he like thought about it for a second. He's okay, if you don't give me any problems, take these 2 units. So I'm like, okay, but I need 2 months free up front. He's like, that's fine. It was like winter time. He wasn't gonna get it rented anyway. So he said, take these 2 units. So all of a sudden, I'm in the lease arbitrage business, and this is in 2018, where
Before
there's
it
no
was
such
really a thing.
yeah, there's no name for it. I just thought of a model to make it work. I ended up furnishing the units. There was like a $10,000 up front to pay for furnishing those units, but I'm having 2 months free right now. And within those 2 months, I'm recouping like 75% of my startup costs. And now I have cash rolled back in, and 2, 3, 4 months go by. And I'm like, hey, can I have 2 more units? He's like, you've done good. Take these 2 units. Then I went back after a couple months, same thing, 2 months free. I went back after a couple months. I'm like, hey, can I have these 4 units, these 10 units? And all of a sudden, I have 35 units with this one landlord.
Damn. Wild, man. Now that came by quick, huh? It probably came by really quick.
Yeah.
So it's funny. So I actually started 2018, 2019 is when I joined as a product manager at Avance, and they did Airbnb arbitrage, but they didn't call it Airbnb arbitrage or short-term rental arbitrage or whatever. They said they were a vacation home rental company. I joined and I was like, all right, you're taking leases, making more money on top of the leases. Okay, interesting. But it was something that was going on, but there was not really a thing about it. It was a weird thing. So you were trailblazing this thing. You never heard about this kind of model on Bigger Pockets or anything else?
No, not that I remember. Like, I think everything's like flexible, right? At the end of the day, call it what you want. Lease arbitrage, management, you're giving money and you're making money. So to me, it's just a flexible, creative way to do it. And maybe there was somebody doing it, but I didn't think like too big of it. I know someone that I related to a lot in the beginning was Airbnb animator, Sean Rakitic. So I loved his videos initially when I first started. It's like a little different now for me because I'm in a different mindset with my business now than he is. But at first it was like he was a guy I related to. So it's interesting. Avance, I feel like I saw their name recently. I can't remember if it was good news or bad news about them.
I don't know, man.
Yeah.
I don't know. I used to work there.
Yeah.
Didn't really like it personally. Nothing bad to say about them. It's just more so just not a good fit for me.
Right.
But they switched to management. So they used to do arbitrage and they switched to management probably because I think it might have to do something with like regulations or I don't know what it was. But I know specifically they got screwed in Joshua Tree where I had clients that or people that were coming in as leads to me that they offered them like $15,000 of rent per month and we're making like 20 to 25 a month.
Wow.
But that was during COVID. And once COVID ended, they couldn't make the payments. So it was making like 10 grand a month. They were losing like, and in their contracts, which was really sneaky, I think it was really smart actually. In their contracts, they have a clause that they can switch it to management. So they just switched management on all these lawyers, and they decided to bring lawyers into the equation, which
So man, those big companies, I've heard too many stories about how they screw over landlords. And for one, like this rental arbitrage model is not a model that can easily be sold. Like it's not actively marketed to like different companies to get acquired in the rental arbitrage space. And there's been a lot of failures from it. There's no assets in the business. The only asset we have is the contract, right? Similar to like a management model, but those get transacted on. The big players in the rental arbitrage space are either not around anymore or they all end up moving into the management type business because it's less risk. We've gone through some crazy stuff over the time, and I have colleagues and friends that have gone bankrupt. On like recently, Front Desk. Jesse was a good guy to me. We still keep in touch, and it's sad to see something like that. But all these VC-backed companies, like they never made money, and there's only a select group of us rental arbitrage guys that like are scaled, that like talk to each other, that we're making money right now. We want to profit at the end of the day. We don't want this huge brand and go national. We want to make money, you know.
So let's talk about that a little bit. I mean, we can come back to the story, but I'm curious, like, what are some of the threats? Because we talked a little bit about this. What are some of the threats that you see as an arbitrager, and what are some of the cons, and what are some of the pros? And like, I just want to get your feel
Yeah.
on that?
So from a threat perspective, or like the risk, or like the
The
cons,
risk.
right? Arbitrage. So they're not getting acquired. There's nothing. Like there's big companies that had 1,000 units and they couldn't sell. Like then like Front Desk, for example, started transitioning into a software company and a PMS, and they try to do all this stuff to make their business have some assets in their business. So they don't get transacted on. Number two is apparently when you have a scaled model that's nationally, it's hard to be profitable. From a lot of what some of my colleagues were saying, operations to set up in each city is like tough and it's a huge expense. So these guys weren't making money. And then another thing is you're obligated to pay that lease regardless of what happens to market conditions, unless you have some sneaky stuff like Avant had it or Sonder had it, where they stopped paying landlords when the Dow Jones went down 800 points during the COVID time.
Yeah.
Like people are smart to have those type of things in their contracts, but a landlord is smart too. They're not going to be accepting of that. Maybe these small time homeowners might get tricked into that, but some landlords are not going to get tricked into that. They have lawyers looking at that every second. And then you have the risk of the landlord where he's, hey, you're causing me too many problems. I can't take on this risk. Pick up your stuff out of these 50 units. And I've had that. I've had that a lot. Wow. So right now I have 300 units, but I've touched 600 units. And it happened to me 300 times. Wow. It's just a balance, plus minus. And hopefully I just having a net positive over the years. Also, like when you have seasonality issues, I have cash flow issues in my market. I'm in a beautiful summer market, but then the winters are terrible. If I never make it to the next summer, then I'm out of business and I did this for nothing, right? I take some big losses, like some 7-figure losses in my winters. So I have to make sure I have the cash.
Let's talk about those. I think that is something that a lot of people don't talk about. And I think you've been very open about talking about the huge losses and the near bankruptcy that you've gotten with the business if you're not careful enough with the cash flow. So this is like for very highly seasonal markets, not just arbitrage, but just in general, people making less money than their mortgage when they have their own properties in off season. How do you manage that from a high level? Like how do you and do you have any stories to maybe talk about that?
Yeah, so maybe I could get back into my story, and then I think those questions can be answered.
Perfect. Let's do that.
Yeah, to take you back to that landlord, all of a sudden I have 35 units with him. And what ended up doing is going to his colleagues and competitors, people that know him in the market, because Chicago's a big city, but small city, right? Everybody knows each other. So I started saying, hey, I do business with him. Can I do business with you? And it was much easier this time to get my next landlord to say yes and my next landlord to say yes. So I started scaling significantly. And again, I would always ask that 2 months free up front to be able to buy my furniture and recoup those costs back. I would make the argument to the landlord, like, you don't have to pay agent commissions. I'll take care of your unit better than a regular tenant will because I clean the unit. And then on the time of renewal, you don't have to turn your unit around again. Like I was explaining that. It's like benefit to have me there. And they started accepting my idea and I started scaling fast. And by the time like the winter of 2020 is when I had 120 units at that time. And my winter is when I lose a lot of money. So I'm taking 6 figures losses in my winter. But I'm like, this is the opportunity to add units because the landlords are hurting at the same time too. And I'm like, okay, but I need that. I'm going to start opening up credit cards. I opened 10 credit cards, continuously ask for an increase of limits. I asked for some family and friends loans. I'm like, hey, listen, I have this opportunity in this winter. I could add like 60 units. Let me borrow some money. So that winter, I added like 60 units, 60. And I'm taking 6-figure losses, taking out huge debt, scaling up crazy style, no cash in my bank account. And I'm like, okay, let's go. Spring break 2020. I'm back at it. I'm going to make some money. Let's make it happen. I'm going to make $1 million this year profit, right? Let's go. And March 11th, announcement comes out that all flights are stopped, are grounded.
Oh my God. Yeah. COVID.
Yeah. That hit me with a knockout punch. I was like, whoa, what do I do now? What can I do right now? I was like frozen. And then a couple days later, Airbnb announces we're refunding all our guests for future reservations. Yeah.
I remember that.
And all of a sudden, $100,000 off my books go away.
I was going to say, this is the moment at this time, working for Airbnb arbitrage company. I remember, and I just want to chime in here real quick. I remember that moment where that same thing happened and we had to give refunds, and we were bleeding money. We had everybody calling in. My job shifted from, shoot, I'm a product manager, to now I'm servicing these refunds. I just got shifted over. At that moment I knew my job was at risk, and they fired Sonder, everybody. They fired a majority of their workforce.
Right.
And now that was the moment. It's like they were bleeding cash. It was ridiculous. It was just negative months by far. But I can't imagine you being you can't fire yourself. You're going down with the ship. You're the captain of the ship. Can't imagine what you were going through at the time.
Yeah, it was crazy tough.
Yeah.
But it was not a slow death, not like a slow bleeding out. It was just like literally knockout, which keeps you away from feeling bad a little bit, right? It was almost like in crisis mode. Okay, I'm like, I have $500,000 of rent coming up. I have no cash. I have these credit cards. What the heck am I going to do, right? I put together a plan. And in this plan, there was like 10 items that I needed to get done. And the biggest ones were like, I need a cash injection. How can I get a cash injection? Because I had these 20%, 25% credit cards that I have to clear out. And I got a cash injection. I got the EIDL loan, like the 150,000, right? I got only 40,000 in PPP, which kind of sucked because all my cleaners were contractors and they were not W-2. So I was not able to get much money from that, but it still helped, right? So I paid like around like $200,000 of like credit card debt that I had. The other biggest thing was my obligation to my landlords, right? Rental arbitrage, I owe rent no matter what. So I ended up arriving to all my landlords' offices unannounced. Imagine like a big office building and you're just like at the front desk telling them like, hey, I need to talk to the boss. There's a big problem that we have going on. It caught the landlords off guard, but it was this serious because I'm like, in 2 weeks, I don't have money to pay you. And that's basically how I started the conversation. Right. And I'm like, listen, we have 3 options. The first option is let me go out of my lease. I'll hand you back your unit. I don't want to hold your unit. You don't want to be around me. I'm a ship that's like sinking, right?
Sinking, yeah.
And then number 2 is if you want me to stay and we could try to figure it out, let's go on a revenue share. So back to the management agreement that like I would have with other people. But this time it was with scaled landlords and my terms were like favorable to me. I didn't know what it was. I said like 50-50. I don't know how much money I'm going to make. And the last one was like, I could stay in the unit and you could sue me until I have nothing, but I have nothing. But I did have something. I just didn't want to let them know I had something, right? I was worried about like my assets. I was really worried actually. And then, so out of those 180 units I had at that time, there was like 40 of them that said, just pick up your stuff and leave. There was maybe like 40, 50 of those units that said, listen, we're not COVID charity. You better pay me my money or you're going to have nothing left. And then the biggest thing was like 2 landlords that had 90 units were like, let's go on a revenue share. You have a significant amount of units in my portfolio. Let's see how it goes after 2 months. Eventually, those people that said, I'm going to sue you until you have nothing, realize how bad COVID is going to be. Every day, it was like worse news. But it hit us first, right? It hit us immediately, right?
It hit the Airbnb immediately.
Yeah,
we were
right.
on that punch.
Yeah, they started realizing, okay, yo, I don't want to be around this guy either. Let's let him out, right? Pay me 2 months to get out. Pay me, leave your furniture, whatever. Now all of a sudden I have a clean slate. I got out of 90 units. I'm in 90 other units, and with these 90 units, I no longer have that rent risk, and I'm just sharing the revenue now. And in my market, supply decreased like 50% during COVID.
Wow.
For various reasons. People going out of business, people seeing how COVID is going to be bad. They don't want people from Airbnb, like various reasons. People needed to still stay into Airbnbs. And Airbnbs were cleaner than hotels. Hotels is a revolving door. Hotel demand decreased to 10% occupancy in my market, from what I recall. And then all of a sudden, my strategy was like, I'm going to change my minimum stays to 15 days, 14 days. And I'm just going to price it what I would get from a market rent person from a vacant unit. And let's see if I could get people that were in transition that needed a place to stay. And all of a sudden, I started getting bookings. And I started meeting with the 2 landlords that I had. All I had was 2 landlords now. And I kept on showing them, hey, these bookings are coming in. I'm gonna be able to give you 50% of the rent that I would have probably given you before. things are not that bad. But at any given time, if you tell me this is not working out, take your units back. And they were happy with what I was showing them on a monthly basis.
Damn. Do you think
Yeah.
that they weren't making money off their other units? Like people weren't paying rent?
Yeah, of
And so
course.
you were paying rent
Yeah.
at least, right?
They started seeing people lose their jobs. Commercial real estate and storefronts were like terrible. Offices were like, they stopped. People stopped paying. And I think the biggest thing a landlord hates is somebody not communicating what's going on and somebody
Yeah.
ignoring them and holding on to their unit without paying. That's like the biggest
Right.
thing that they like hate. But I was communicating and I was giving some
You're
money.
very reasonable too.
Right,
Like you had
right.
all these options. You came in proactively. I think that showed a lot of character, and I think that's why they kept working with you, to be
Right.
honest.
There was a landlord that said, like, in 20 years of being in business, I've never had anybody walk in my office to tell me something like this. And I'm like, that's what I am. Like, if I see something that's going to happen in some time that's really bad, I'm going to let you know today. I'm not going to just wait for it to happen to be like, oh, crap, look. I think they appreciated that. I say that now because I'm in business right now with them. And sorry, I lost my train of thought.
Oh yeah, you're talking about how all this happened. You had the 90 units.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you were still paying rent while other people weren't, basically.
Yeah. So by the time summertime came, people were traveling a little bit again in 2020. Supplies down and hotels are COVID infested. Everyone was scared, but Airbnbs were clean. So all of a sudden, I started giving them their full market rent during the summer. Now these landlords are saying like, hey, we could keep this guy. Like he's not causing problems. He's paying. He's not an issue. He's keep transparent. And this once in a lifetime opportunity came to me during this time as well. There was this big company that went bankrupt during COVID. The name was Stay Alfred.
Yes.
And yes.
Wow.
At the time, somebody in my professional Facebook group was like, hey, the receivership is asking if anybody wants to purchase their furniture. They're taking in offers. And I was not interested. I didn't care. I had furniture myself in my garages and basements of my buildings. I had so much. And I'm like, I can't even pay $200 for the stuff per unit. And then one of my friends told me, offer $200 per unit then. It doesn't hurt. I offered $200 per unit, and they ended up accepting my offer. And
What?
yeah. They're like, how many units do you want? And I'm like, okay, I'll take these 30. And at the same time, I'm doing good to my current landlords. They have vacancy in their apartments. They're not getting them rented. And now I'm able to get the biggest CapEx for pennies on the dollar. So like literally overnight, I created a logistics freight warehousing company. I started Googling, okay, how do I get a truck from Ohio to Chicago? How do I get a warehouse? How do I get movers? I started Googling and I figured it out, and I sent my people over there, and I started moving 30 apartments with the furniture into warehouses in Chicago. And then I went to my landlord. I'm like, listen, do you have any vacancy? I could take these like 10 units, 15 units. Yeah, we'll continue this revenue share model. And I'm plugging in this furniture to these units, and all of a sudden I'm scaling back up again. And then I go back to the Stay Alfred receivership attorney, and I'm like, hey, could I have 30 more units and 40 more units and 50 more? And all of a sudden I bought like 100 apartments worth of furniture from them, like $1 million worth of furniture, for probably spent like $10,000 on the furniture. But I still had more costs. Like I probably spent a total of 100,000 in like labor, freight, warehousing, and moving it back into unit. Like it was still a substantial labor cost, but like like 10 cents on the dollar is probably what I net.
Wow.
And I have 4 warehouses. I'm going all over the country. I'm getting offered on 150 apartments in Nashville that I said no to because I couldn't do it at that time, but I regret it now because I used all that furniture.
Yeah.
Somebody else bought it, and then they were trying to sell it to me, and I'm like, hell no. I was getting it at the rate that you bought it for.
Yeah.
What you talking about? And then, so I have warehouses, and then another company went under, Domio.
Yes.
yeah.
I remember that. Wow.
And then because I had so much, like I had such a big win with the Stay Alfred stuff, I offered on the Domio stuff sight unseen the first day. I'm like, here's 50,000. I don't care to see any of the furniture. I just knew their product before, how it looked. I'm like, I'll buy this whole warehouse worth of stuff because all the Domio Chicago stuff was at this warehouse. And I'm like, I need to know the answer today or else I'm not doing the deal. And I probably, now I was paying like $1,000 per unit versus the 200. Like as time went on, the offers started getting like things weren't as bad. COVID wasn't like, it wouldn't kill you in a second. Things were going back to a little normal. So all of a sudden I'm paying $1,000 per apartment, but I bought 50 apartments worth of Domio furniture. So I'm going
Nice.
all around buying all this bankruptcy furniture, and I'm plugging it into these landlords, and I'm scaling, I'm adding units, and like things are going good. All of a sudden, I'm back at 175, almost 200 units by like that year. Everything I lost, I gained back.
That is awesome. And from there, you knew that at that point, you knew that the Airbnb business is going to be back. And did you eventually start getting more leads from the landlords, or like how did you scale to 310?
By the time like it was like 2021, I was adding units with the two landlords that I have 90 units with. They had that much inventory, right? And I continuously kept on adding like 5, 10, 15 units at a time, right? And then from 300, it took me like another year. So like it was 2 years. Well, give and take, because I'm losing units over these 2 years, and then I'm gaining units. Like this in 2023 is I lost 75 units. So I had 310 at one point, and then I dropped down to 40, and then now I'm back up at 310. So it's like a process. Like the landlord that helped bailed me out in COVID, no longer am I in a relationship with him. He didn't need me anymore. And it was that landlord, it was like he had a brand new development, $100 million development, and he didn't do any pre-leasing. It was his first development he ever made. So all of a sudden he gets a certificate of occupancy. Day one is a vacant building. And I'm talking about swimming pools and gyms and everything. And then it's, oh shit, your mortgage starts or whatever. And I went and took some units from him because of that. He was highly motivated. But as he fills up that building, he didn't need me anymore.
There you go. Do you think that's a risk too? Do you think that's a risk too in this business? Because if they need you or don't need you?
Oh, that's what it is. Basically, any landlord that has me in there is highly motivated. That's the only reason why he wants me in. There's no other reason. Who wants an Airbnb in an apartment building with the traffic that comes in, with somebody else screening your guests for you, and causing issues with your current business and your current tenants? Nobody wants that. No landlord wants that. The only way to get into the business is finding somebody that's hurting, that's not able to rent it out. That's the only way. So I'm only as good as the value I provided yesterday, right? If I don't provide value today, they're going to figure out something in that contract to get me out or not renew me or do something. So yeah, it's a big risk like in the business. Like I had to let go of so many units with that one landlord. It was more than 50. It was staggered, but yeah, over 50.
Wow. And so what kind of landlords do you go after? Do you do any outbound, or is it mostly inbound now?
I'm not familiar with like outbound, inbound is.
Go out there and try to find apartment owners and do cold calling, or did they just come to you because you've just had really great relationships or good referrals or whatever?
Yeah.
And if you do that, how do you screen out which ones are good and which ones aren't? You said the ones that are highly motivated.
Yeah, so I used to do outbound, where I used to call, pitch, go to meetings. I used to do that a lot, and that's when I was in the hustle mode, and I was new, and I liked it, closing and all that, and I would get rejected a lot. But after the years, it's more of relationship based and word of mouth and referral. And I'm only targeting like maybe 10 landlords that I can potentially see that they have the product and they would be accepting of it, you know? So there's landlords that I've been pitching for 3 years or 4 years that finally said yes, you know. Finally, they said take these like 10 units here because there's something happened, you know. It was actually something happened where they had a big vacancy problem when they acquired that building. I came in and helped them out. Yeah, so now it's just relationship based, and now my criteria is someone that has a long-term reputation in Chicago, who has an inventory that I want. I don't want just one unit. I don't want 5 units. I want somebody that I potentially get into 10, 15, 20, 30. And I have this typical up to $2,000, $2,500 rent. I get scared when like the rents are higher with like those luxury buildings and like River North and these areas. I get scared because how bad my social.
Oh, go on. Sorry.
Yeah.
That's right.
My units, they're all over the north side of Chicago.
Yeah.
And now I'm every neighborhood you could name in Chicago, I'm there. Lakeview, Lincoln Park, Wicker Park, Logan Square, Hyde Park,
Nice.
River North, Rogers Park, Portage Park, like every park. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. It's funny because all of these places are places that I go to, and I've lived in Rogers Park for a little, so that's interesting. So cool. So So got it. So you got this whole background, you got all these units. Now I'm curious because it's a different time now, obviously. So I'm sure you get a bunch of people that see your stuff online, and this is a common question I get, but I'm gonna ask it. How do you get started in arbitrage as somebody new in this day and age? Is it possible? Should you go for the 1 to 5 units? Should you go for the 30 plus? What would you recommend to people?
Yeah, so yes, you definitely should get into the arbitrage space right now, but you should get into like regulated markets where it's hard to get a unit in that market. If it's too easy and barrier of entry is too easy, then you don't want to do that. There was a lot of markets in the South that, like the Austin market, the Phoenix market, the Florida markets, where people were pouring in supply during like the COVID time, and it was easy to get units in Houston and stuff. And now all of a sudden, when demand starts shifting, everyone's losing money in all those markets. But a highly regulated market, if you could figure out the laws that it makes it hard for the next person to come in and do it, then that's a good market. You could look at the supply metrics or on AirDNA to see like how things are going. Like if you see like markets like Chicago and New Orleans and LA and New York too. I know it's hard, but there's a lot of regulated markets that, like, if I could be in a regular market, that's what I want to be. But that's only if you're like searching for that perfect market. But my biggest recommendation is always like invest in your backyard, your area the best. You know why somebody would come. It's easier to manage. It's easier to start. It's easier to find somebody that'll give you a unit because you live nearby. It's everything's just easier, and you could learn the business, and you could be profitable, and you could have your own little niche. It's like starting your backyard wherever you live. If you can do it, just go ahead and do it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's like my biggest things, like where you should do it and if you should do it. Yeah.
Where should you pitch landlords? You go on Zillow.com. Where do you go? Craigslist?
Yeah.
How do you find those distressed owners, the ones that have been on the market for 30 days and haven't been getting rent? Or
Yeah, that's one strategy. There's like a million strategies, but yeah, that definitely is one strategy, and that's like what I used to do 5-6 years ago. It was tough. It was tough as heck, right? One thing is, if you pitch right away to an agent or a property management company, too much hierarchy to get a decision maker to respond. If you focus on mom and pops, if somebody put their like name and phone number on the Zillow ad and they're like hurting like really bad, they might say yes to you. But in my opinion, no pitch or no sale would happen from just a simple email or a phone call. Any business transaction will only be done is if you meet somebody in person and they see you, they see how you talk, they see your mannerisms, they see how you're able to answer their questions. You have to be able to go out there. You have to be able to go to networking events, let people know who you are. You're an Airbnb operator. You have X amount of units. You're looking to add 3 more units. You're looking for owners that might have vacancy that would want me to come in and guarantee rent. And if you're networking, if you're talking to people in person and they see you, people will think of an opportunity for you and they'll plug you in. So that's like my biggest thing. Like, you have to go out there and do it. You can't just do it on, oh, hey, I see a lot of Instagram videos. Go to Zillow.com, find rent $2,000. I have this perfect pitch that you can email the landlord and they will approve you. Run your background. Like, it's like nonsense, right? That'll never happen that way. It's never that easy. And if it was that easy, then you don't want to be in that market.
And yeah, 100%. So, dude, you did all this stuff, right? And now, you did all this, and really the big goal was to leave your job and to live a lifestyle. Let's talk about your lifestyle. What is it? Day in the life of Syed. What are you doing, man? What are you, like, where are you going to, are you going to eat every day out, or are you still in shape and you're trying to eat at home, or you have a private chef, or you got a whole mansion, penthouse? What's the lifestyle look like for you, man?
Okay, my lifestyle is, I want to be that Dubai lifestyle. So
there you go.
So that's the lifestyle that I want, and that's the lifestyle that I'm going to strive for. And there's nothing wrong with wanting the nice things in life, but you want to be motivated to go after those things. And my money fairly came fast. I've been in business for 7 years, but you don't do things in the first couple of 3 years. All of a sudden, when you have a nice little egg, then you can start like doing some nice things. My biggest thing is I like cars. I have a lot of them. I have a handful of them. Like, I have a Rolls Royce, a Lamborghini, NSX. I like the exotic cars. I went through a whole bunch of them during COVID, and they were making money for me. So it was like I just started buying Ferraris and McLarens and like all these cars. This was even before the social media I had. So I was doing that, and I loved it. It makes me feel good.
Yeah, you love it. But the big thing here, you weren't doing social media at the time. So it's not
Right.
like you were doing this to show off or anything. I don't think you even talked about it. You just enjoy the car.
Yeah.
That's your lifestyle, and there's nothing
I
wrong with that.
enjoy, yeah, I enjoy everything about it. Like
Yeah.
it made me want to go to the gym because you want to be able to drive your car. You park in the front. You want to look good coming out of it, right? You want to get like a haircut. You want to go to the gym. It made you like excited to go places. I would want to go to downtown and valet my car, have coffee, sit, enjoy like the summertime Chicago, get motivated by the energy around you, like get motivated by
Right.
the people. You look at people like, oh, what do they do? What do they do? Oh, he has a nice watch. He has a nice this. Like you start, okay, I want to work hard. I want to continuously, I want to be around this all the time. I love that. So that's one thing. Cars is always going to be my thing. It's always was my thing even before this. So now when I have the money to do it, I'm going to do that.
What's your favorite car?
Man, they all have a purpose. Like Lamborghini on Saturday, Rolls Royce on Sunday.
Different car for different day of the week, right?
So yeah, that's how it is right now.
Hey, you deserve to be in Dubai, man. What are
Yeah.
you doing here in Chicago, dude?
But then also, I don't have the big homes yet. I have two homes. I bought one for my family, and then I bought one for my mom, for my wife's mom. So
That's really
she helps
sweet.
us with my kids and stuff. And then I bought 3 buildings. And then now my next thing is, yeah, I'm in this travel phase. I never got to travel before. And nationally, it was not even that travel to me. Is I want to go out to like the Middle East. I want to see what else is out there. I want to be around. They say I really want to be in Dubai, and I'm going there on Monday. They say there's 5,000 millionaires that come to Dubai every year to move there, and I want to be around that energy. I get in competitive modes. I want to be around ambitious people. I want to see what they're doing. I want to meet with people, and the energy I got over there was like next level. And you don't get that in Chicago. You don't get that locally, and
So
you
true.
start. Yeah, you want to blend in with people because like you don't want to look arrogant or you don't want to do something like over the top. You want to make people around you feel comfortable. But then why are you putting yourself in a not your fullest potential to make other people happy? So it's wait, I want to be around the ballers, right? I want to be around the big time people. So that's why I want to see if I could start my business from Airbnb and mainly social media is what I'm looking to do in Dubai.
That would be amazing. So you do have plans of in your future of going out to Dubai and living in Dubai.
So when I say living, it's not living like 12 months out of the year. It's like getting out of Chicago for 2 months in winter with my family, and then throughout the year visit like once every 2 months, like thing. I want to
Yeah.
be able to have a lifestyle where I'm not stuck in Chicago. I'm going to Dubai, maybe Miami. Dubai's a better fit for me. Like I fit in a lot better in Dubai than I do in Miami. I want to see what's out there. Arizona in the summer, maybe Florida. I don't know. So like I want to see how I can make my life better by 1% every day. So that's like where I'm at in my life right now.
Perfect, man. That's awesome. I want to dive into the last three questions, and it actually goes into what we just talked about, but just going to go from there. So, last three questions. One thing I like to ask everybody is really, is there any kind of book? It doesn't have to even be book. It could be a podcast or a video or something you've watched or consumed knowledge base that changed the way you do things and changed the way you perspective in life.
Yeah, so like initially, like many years ago, was like the Bigger Pocket stuff and Rich Dad Poor Dad made me look at like life differently. One book that made my business like change significantly, and it's like the biggest thing for me, was this book called Traction. After like reading like 15, 20 pages of it, I was like, man, I'm getting anxious because I wanted all that stuff that was mentioned in that book in my business. And so I had to close the book because I couldn't continue. But I'm like, I'm going to hire a consultant to implement this in my business. And that literally changed my like business significantly. It's called Traction. There's a method called EOS, Entrepreneur Operating System. And basically it helped me run my small business efficiently and how it should be, where we would create scorecards, we would do metrics, we would have leadership, we would have KPIs, we would have weekly leadership meetings. And that made it so where I only had to talk to 6 people once a week for 2 hours, and I didn't have to worry about the craziness going on in the business. So it took me significantly out of the business. My work week ended up just being like that 2 hours. But don't get me wrong, that's the most stressful 2 hours because you're literally making decisions on the spot for the whole business that then you have to see it play out. And sometimes your decisions don't play out the right way. So it's my brain is fried after those 2 hours for a day. I'm thinking of all the answers to the problems throughout the week, but I have to like de-stress during that time to make sure that I could properly make that decision. I could guide the ship the right way. I don't want to make the one wrong move, because I can make 100 right moves, be at where I'm at today, all this money and all this, but one wrong move can make me lose everything. And then everyone will be able to talk and say, oh, I knew he didn't have it in him. And, screw you. But
that guides you, huh?
Yeah.
They're looking for you to fail. They're like looking for that validation for what they try to say in the beginning.
Yeah, everyone loves that fail story, right? They want to see somebody crash and burn. Yeah. Then they want to see that person triumph again. Yeah,
they make them feel better though. They're like, oh, dude, I can't fathom the idea that somebody else with the same positioning, resource, everything as I had, and I'm still working corporate and he's doing these things. There has to be a cheat code. His family's got money. He's got money. He got lucky. Whatever they can. Oh, he's going to fail soon. It just makes it easier on their reality. Crazy. So cool, man. So you got that. And so the second one, I wanted to ask, let's say that would you ever close down all your Chicago units, or at least outsource it and have a COO run it or whatever and open it up in Dubai? Is that in the plans at all? No,
I won't let go of my Chicago portfolio because the regulations are so tough, and because I've scaled it so big, and because I'm so out of my business already. I don't need a COO to run it. I have my weekly leadership meeting, and then I have the stress behind it and like the lawsuits. I have 4 lawyers I talk to so I have to deal with the big problems, right? So I'll never let go. That's my everything. That's how I make my income. The Dubai play is mainly, I want some skin in the game over there. I don't want a scaled business. I don't believe in how fast it's growing there yet. The supply over there is increasing crazy. If you look at AirDNA, 2 years ago, there's 6,000 Airbnbs there. Now there's 29,000 2 years ago. So to imagine like 4x, 29,000 Airbnbs is crazy. It's scary. And I'm not going to make a scaled operation there and all of a sudden I lose everything here because of there. Maybe 10 units, 15, 20, see what's going on. But the other thing is the social media of Dubai. It's like fun. That algorithm over there is different. I'm telling you, it is different. The people that are engaging in the For You page, whatever it is, people's following go up crazy style. And I created this personal brand to one day monetize, right? I don't know how I'm going to monetize yet, but maybe I keep switching my strategy and what I want to do. But my thing right now is Dubai. And I just like going there. It gives me purpose to go there. I don't like I don't like beaches like that. I'm not gonna sit on the beach. I might sit on the beach for a meeting with my phone. Like I'll do that, but I won't do it just to go hang out and make time go by. I can't. Too much things going on in my brain the whole time.
That's awesome, man. So you still want to be active. I think the moment that we stop thinking, the moment that we stop using our brains is the moment we die. I always think like you work till you die, but like you work what you love to do until you die. Right. So I love that, man. Last thing, man, for anybody that wants to get in contact with you, how can they reach out to you? How can they connect with you? I know you're a very giving person. You've given a lot of knowledge in this podcast. I want to see how people can reach you.
Yeah, my biggest thing is follow me on Instagram at SyedBNB, SYEDBNB. You'll see me posting on there, and you see my stories that I'm going through. You see a handful of flexing. I like showing my cars off and stuff. And sometimes that I thought would attract followers, but it really didn't. I don't know what it is. I don't know what I have to do to increase the following, but I'm trying to try different things. But yeah, you can see my life on Instagram. Follow me there, and it's really good. Contact me.
Appreciate you so much, man. Take it easy, all right?
And that's a wrap. Thank you for listening to the Patryk Real Estate Show. If you found this episode helpful, please give us a follow and leave us a 5-star review. Your support truly means a lot. And connect with Patryk in the show notes below. Until next time.